Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about law of sines. This is a new unit. The new unit is called trigonometric applications. Now you probably are wondering what law of sines is and when do I use it. So let's go by example. So let's look at example number 1. It says in triangle ABC. So let's first show a picture. And they tell us that little a is 8. Just remember that little a is across from angle A. So little a is here, and it's 8. And it tells you that the measure of angle A is 30, so go ahead and label the 30 degrees on the inside. And the measure of angle C is 55. And they want you to find the value of little c. Little c is across from angle C, so little c would be here. Now, we can't use the Pythagorean theorem. We can't use sine, cosine, and tangent because we don't have a right triangle. So, therefore, we need some other formula to help us find these missing pieces. And this is where law of sines comes in. And this is law of sines. Basically, you can set any two pieces of this, equation equal to each other. So if you have A and B, you can use these parts. If you have A and C, you can set these two equal. If you have B and C, you could set those two equal. So what do I have in the problem here? I have A and I have C. So let's go ahead and write the formula that we're going to use. A over sine of A is equal to C over sine of C. So again, you can use any two pieces of this formula that you want. Also, another way to remember it is crisscross. This angle crosses with this side, and this angle crosses with that side. So as long as you have a crisscross with an angle and a side, angle, side, angle, side, you can use law of sines. So again, the formula for law of sines is used when the problem has two sides, two angles. So you see I have two angles, two sides. One of them is going to be unknown. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in what we know. So A is 8. Sine of A, sine of 30, is equal to C over sine of C, or sine of 55. So you're going to need your calculators, so pause the video if you don't have it. And now you're going to type in, first let's cross multiply. So we have C times sine of 30 equals 8 times sine 55. So to get C by itself, we're going to have to divide by sine of 30. So in the calculator, I'd like you to type in 8 sine 55. Close the parenthesis, hit enter. So we just did this top part. Then divide sine of 30. Close the parentheses, hit enter. You should get about 13.10. So 13.1 is it rounded to the nearest tenth. So this is my answer for side of C. Okay, let's try another example. Example number 2. In the diagram below, little a is 55. Little a, remember, is across from angle A. Side of C is 20, again, cross from angle C. And the measure of angle A is 110. Find the measure of angle C. So we have A and C again, so we can go ahead and write down the formula, or we could look for crisscross. So see how this angle is across from this side, and this side is across from this angle. So since I have the crisscross, I can use law of sines. And it's always going to be side, so C, over sine of C equals A over sine of A. We could flip it and put the A on the other side or the C on the other side. It doesn't matter. But just remember that it's going to be side over the sine of an angle. So as long as you have side over sine of an angle, you're good to go. So let's plug in what we know. We know that C is 20. We don't know C, so sine of C will leave, equals A, which is 55, over sine of A, which A is 110. So let's write it out first. We're going to cross multiply. So this times this is 55 sine of C equals 20 times sine of 110. So to get C by itself, we're going to divide by 55. Okay, so in the calculator, 20 sine 110, close parentheses, divided by 55. And you should get 0.34170 dot 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 dot, and that is equal to sine of C. So from our previous unit, how do I get C by itself? You should be thinking second sine. So we're going to write sine -1 of answer. So this is what C will be equal to. So in the calculator, second sine, second answer, and you should get that C is about 19.9, but it says to round to the nearest degree, so we're going to make it about 20. Now what are we missing? We should remember from equation solving that if sine of C is equal to a positive number, we have to account for our other angle. So sine is positive here and here. So we already have the angle in quadrant 1, which is 20. How do I find the angle in quadrant 2? So the angle in quadrant 2 is going to be 180 minus 20. So go ahead and type that into the calculator, and you should get 160. Now they're asking what's the angle, so one of them is not going to work. So we have to think about this for a minute. If I were to plug in 20 into here, is that a possibility? Well, let's see. If I put 20 here, we've got 110 and 20. If we add those together, that gets 130. And there's enough degrees left so that I could put an angle here, because the angles of a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So we have 110 and 20, which add to 130, and then we could do 180 minus 130 and get the other angle of the triangle. So the other angle of the triangle here would be 50, because I did 180 minus 130. Okay. So that's a possibility, so that one works. But let's see if we have an angle of 160 degrees. So if C is equal to 160, is that possible? Well, I have 160 and I have 110. If I add 160 and 110, go ahead and add those in the calculator. You get 270. That means that there's no possible answer for angle B, because the angles of a triangle have to add up to 180. And if you add 110 and 160, it's over 180. So therefore, this one doesn't work, and the angle is 20. Now let me just review that again. 20 degrees works because why? If C is 20, then we have 20 and 110, which add to 130. And that means there's leftover angle measurements to put in for B, because it doesn't quite add to 180. Okay, next page. Okay, example number 3. There's no picture drawn, so let's go ahead and draw a picture. They tell us it's triangle ABC. So triangle ABC. A is 30 degrees. Little b, remember that little b is across from angle B, is 14. And little a is 10. So remember, little a is across from angle A. So this is 10. And they want you to find sine of B and find angle B to the nearest minute. So first let's find sine of B. So do we have a crisscross? We have an angle across from a side, an angle across from a side. Or you could look at the formula and realize that you have A's and B's. So the formula that we're going to use is A over sine of A equals B over sine of B. So A is 10 over sine of 30 equals 14 over sine of B, which we don't know. So let's go ahead and cross multiply. So 14 times sine of 30 is just 14 sine of 30 equals 10 times sine of B. How do I get sine of B by itself? Divide by 10. So in the calculator, 14 sine of 30, hit enter. Now divide by 10. you should get about 0.7. So 0.7 is equal to sine of B. So we've answered the first part of the question, find sine of B. Now find angle B. So how do we do that again? Sine -1, so B is equal to the inverse sine, so second sine of 0.7. So in the calculator, second sine, second answer, because the 0.7 should already be there. And that tells us that B is equal to about 44.4. But the question is asking for the angle to the nearest minute. So we have to hit, notice how I have the steps here, second apse. So go ahead and type that in, second apse. And we want degree minutes seconds. So second apse 4. So your answer, it should say in your calculator, answer DMS. And you get 44 degrees, 25 minutes, and 37.214 seconds. So how do I round this to the nearest minute? So, well, we already have the 44 degrees, and it's either going to stay 25 minutes or round up to 26 minutes. So where do I look? At the 37. Now remember, 37 is bigger than 30, because in a minute, the halfway mark is 30. So it's actually going to round the 25 to a 26. So it's 44 degrees, 26 minutes. Now, how do I find the other angle? Just remember before, we had ASTC, and sine is equal to a positive 0.7. So it's either here or here. How would I find the angle in quadrant 2 since we already have the angle in quadrant 1? 180 minus 44 degrees, 26 minutes. And since this should be in your calculator already, type in 180 minus second answer. And you're going to get about 135.572996. But since the question is asking in the nearest minute, we're going to have to hit second apse, 4 for DMS, and that's going to change your answer to the nearest minute. So what does that give us? That gives us 135 degrees and 34 minutes, and 22.786 seconds. So rounding that to the nearest minute would be 135 degrees, 34 minutes. So these are your two possibilities for B. Now let's see if we need to reject any of them. So I know the 44 degrees, 26 minutes is a little confusing. So let's just look at it as 44 degrees. If I have 44 here for B, and I have 30 here, 44 and you add 30 to it, that's only 74. So there's enough for angle C, so that works. How about 135? If I have 135 plus 30, that's what, 165? So this and this, I've got enough left over, so I'm good to go. So therefore, both of these are answers. They're possibilities for B. Okay, example number 4. A ski lift begins at ground level 0.75 miles from the base of the mountain. Okay, so if this is the beginning of the ski lift right here, and they say that it's 0.75 miles away from the base of the mountain, that's here. So this is 0.75. And it tells you that it has an angle of elevation of 50 degrees, which is given here. And they want to know the length of the ski lift from the beginning to the top of the mountain. So they want this piece here. Okay, there's no A, B, and C. So using law of sines is going to be a little tricky with the formula. So we need to look for crisscross. So they want us to find this angle X. And what do I know this side X. And what does that cross with? This angle here. So we've got a this crosses with this. And what other information do I have? Well, I have the 20. Do I have this side? No, so that's not going to work. So I could do this with this side angle. So let's cross this 0.75 with this angle here. So right now it would be X over sine of some angle. So X over sine of this angle. But how do I find this angle? you should remember from geometry that this and this add to 180. So if this piece is 50, what's this piece in here? You should be saying 130. So it would be x over sine of 130 equals the side, which is 0.75, over sine of the angle. What's this angle up here? Well, I have 20, I have 130. That adds to what, 150? And then what's left over for the triangle? 30. So why don't you go ahead and finish that for homework. Get me an answer for x. And let's set you up with 5. So it says in parallelogram ABCD. So when we label a parallelogram, we have to label it either clockwise or counterclockwise. So notice how I started with A here and went around. You could have started with A here and went around this way. And they tell you that AD is 11 and diagonal AC is 15. And the measure of angle BAD is this angle in here, which is 63 degrees, 50 minutes. Find to the nearest 10 minutes the measure of angle ACD. So this angle in here is what they want. Well, if I isolate my eye just on the bottom triangle, so if I take this out, this is D, this is A, this is C, I have 11, and I have 15. And in order to use law of sines, I need to use the crisscross. Well, I know that this side crosses with this angle C, that one that we want to find, so we'll put X there. And we know that the 15 crosses with this angle here. But I can't have two unknowns in the problem, so there's got to be a way that I can find this angle here. And there is. And it has to use geometry. So what do I know? In a parallelogram, consecutive angles, so this angle and this angle, add to 180 degrees. So if you do 180 minus 63 degrees, 50 minutes in the calculator, so let's do that. 180 minus 63, second apps to get the degrees. Type in 50, second apps to get the minutes. Hit enter. And then second apps 4 for DMS. You get 116 degrees, 10 minutes. So that would be here. I'll go over this in detail tomorrow if it was tricky. But now use these configurations to set up law of sines. Side over sine of the angle equals side over sine of the angle. So give that a shot, and then we'll go over it tomorrow. All right, bye.